Imagine a family so powerful that kings borrowed their money, wars were funded by their decisions, and empires rose or fell because of them. Long before Silicon Valley billionaires ruled tech and innovation, the Rothschilds controlled the world of finance. Let's explore their fortune, influence, and lessons that still matter today. The Rothschild family started in Frankfurt, Germany, in the 18th century. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, the patriarch, laid the foundation for one of history's most powerful banking dynasties. He had 5 sons and placed each of them strategically in Europe's major capitals, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt. This allowed the family to move money faster than any other institution at the time. Unlike today's billionaires, whose wealth is often tied to visible assets like companies or stocks, the Rothschilds' wealth was largely invisible, held in bonds, credit, and loans to governments. By building trust with kings, governments, and businesses, they became indispensable financiers. Their influence went beyond banking; they were architects of a new financial system that shaped nations. Patience, strategy, and discretion became the family's greatest assets, setting them apart from all contemporaries. Their wealth strategy focused not only on accumulation but on creating influence networks that would last generations. This combination of finance and strategic placement became the blueprint for financial empires in Europe. The Rothschild brothers operated more than banks; they built a coordinated network across Europe. London managed British interests, Paris controlled French loans, Vienna worked with the Habsburg Empire, Naples oversaw southern Italy, and Frankfurt remained the headquarters. This system allowed them to share financial intelligence faster than any government, giving them a unique competitive edge. Wars, revolutions, and economic changes became opportunities to extend credit, invest, and secure influence. Unlike modern tech giants, who dominate through information or digital platforms, the Rothschilds dominated through financial leverage and trust. Their network allowed them to fund governments, stabilize economies, and move gold and credit across borders. This coordination gave them power far beyond mere money. They weren't just bankers; they were strategists and power brokers whose decisions could influence politics and global trade. Their model proved that wealth combined with intelligence and communication is more powerful than wealth alone. Wars were common in the 18th and 19th centuries, and governments often lacked funds for prolonged conflicts. The Rothschilds stepped in to lend massive amounts to finance armies, weapons, and logistics. The Napoleonic Wars provide a perfect example. They moved gold across Europe, provided loans, and monitored currency values to maximize returns. Unlike today's billionaires, whose influence is limited to companies or media, the Rothschilds could change the course of wars and empires with financial decisions. They weren't just financiers; they were political influencers who could shape international outcomes. Their credit network was so strong that nations depended on them for survival during crises. This combination of financial skill and strategic insight is unparalleled. While modern billionaires may inspire awe for their visible wealth, the Rothschilds' influence was silent, invisible, but far more profound. They demonstrated that money, when combined with strategy, can become a tool for global power. The Rothschilds understood that money alone wasn't enough; they invested in Europe's industrial revolution. Railroads, for example, became a major area of focus. Funding rail networks created massive returns while connecting trade routes, supporting armies, and facilitating economic growth. Unlike today's tech-focused billionaires, who invest in digital innovation, the Rothschilds invested in tangible infrastructure that built nations. Their strategy wasn't merely accumulation; it was influence through creation. By funding essential projects, they intertwined their wealth with national progress, ensuring that governments and economies depended on their capital. Industrial investments weren't just profitable; they were a source of power. This strategic approach made them indispensable to governments, enabling them to influence policies, trade, and economic priorities. The Rothschilds demonstrated that combining finance with practical investments magnifies both wealth and influence. Secrecy was a core principle of the Rothschild empire. Letters and financial records were carefully encrypted, and strategic decisions were shared only within the family. Unlike today's billionaires, who often publicize investments for PR or marketing, the Rothschilds thrived on discretion. Governments and competitors often underestimated them because much of their influence was invisible. Their real power lay not only in money but in knowledge, timing, and network coordination. Every decision was calculated, from lending to investment, ensuring maximum impact. Wealth without strategy is temporary, but wealth combined with foresight and secrecy becomes lasting influence. The Rothschilds' approach teaches that the unseen side of finance, information, timing, and trust, can be more important than the money itself. They created an empire that influenced politics, wars, and economies without ever needing public attention. Modern billionaires like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bernard Arnault are global celebrities. Their wealth is public, measured in stocks, companies, and high-profile ventures. Everyone knows their net worth. The Rothschilds, on the other hand, amassed wealth that was largely invisible. Most of their fortune was tied up in loans, bonds, and international credit networks. While today's billionaires can buy companies or launch rockets, the Rothschilds could influence national policies, fund wars, and stabilize economies. Visibility and influence are two different types of power. Wealth alone does not equal global control. The Rothschilds' hidden power allowed them to operate above politics, while modern billionaires operate in the public eye, subject to media scrutiny and regulations. Their empire proves that influence often matters more than recognition. While tech billionaires innovate, the Rothschilds controlled the lifeblood of nations, money itself. Understanding this difference is essential to grasp the scale of their wealth and power. By the mid-19th century, the Rothschild family reached unmatched heights of power. They could fund multiple governments simultaneously, influence interest rates, and even guide national policies. Their wealth extended beyond finance, it shaped geopolitics. Unlike modern billionaires, whose impact is often industry-specific, the Rothschilds' decisions had continental consequences. They operated as both bankers and strategic advisors to monarchs. Their financial foresight allowed them to predict market trends, manipulate credit, and profit from political instability. Wealth, combined with intelligence and timing, made them nearly unstoppable. Their influence spanned Europe, from London to Vienna, from Naples to Paris. The Rothschilds showed that money, when strategically applied, can be a tool for shaping history. This was true power, silent, hidden, but absolute. The Rothschilds excelled at methods like bond issuance, credit networks, bullion transfers, and international loans. Governments trusted them to move gold across borders securely, even during wars. Their financial strategies resemble modern investment banking but with fewer restrictions. They could lend money, stabilize currencies, and profit from fluctuations in interest rates and exchange rates. Today's billionaires operate under heavy regulations, making certain maneuvers impossible. The Rothschilds thrived in a less regulated but volatile world, using knowledge, timing, and trust to dominate markets. Their ability to control money flow was unmatched. This mastery of financial techniques ensured that they could create wealth even in uncertain times. They proved that skill in finance is just as important as capital itself. Without strategic execution, wealth alone cannot create lasting influence. Even the Rothschilds faced challenges. Wars, political revolutions, and taxation changes threatened their empire. Unlike modern billionaires, who operate in predictable and regulated markets, the 19th century financial world was chaotic. Yet, the Rothschilds adapted, diversified, and survived. They spread their investments across nations, industries, and currencies. Their resilience allowed them to navigate crises while many others went bankrupt. Modern billionaires can learn from this: wealth is temporary if it lacks strategy, foresight, and diversification. The Rothschilds faced global risks yet maintained dominance. They understood that adaptability is as crucial as capital. This balance of risk and reward is a timeless lesson for anyone aiming for long-term financial influence. The Rothschilds' power extended far beyond the financial world. They influenced governments, advised monarchs, and indirectly shaped policies affecting millions. Their decisions impacted wars, economic stability, and global trade. Money alone cannot buy such influence. It requires networks, intelligence, and strategic timing. Today, billionaires may influence technology, media, or culture, but few can match the geopolitical power of the Rothschilds. They showed that real influence comes from combining wealth with strategy and discretion. Financial power without influence is limited, influence without wealth is short-lived. The Rothschilds mastered both, creating an empire that could shape Europe without needing fame or public attention. Their legacy teaches that wealth is most effective when paired with strategic application. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Rothschilds' monopoly began to wane. Several factors contributed. The rise of new banks created competition, while governments implemented taxes and regulations that limited financial freedom. Wars redistributed wealth, and economic shifts made some of their investments less profitable. Even with vast influence, no empire can remain untouchable forever. Unlike today's billionaires, who often rely on technology and global reach for dominance, the Rothschilds depended on secrecy, trust, and strategic networks. These advantages eroded gradually, showing that even the wealthiest families must adapt continuously. Their decline wasn't sudden, it was a slow erosion of monopoly power caused by political and financial evolution. Yet, their legacy endured. They left behind systems, strategies, and networks that influenced modern banking and global finance. The lesson is clear: wealth is temporary, but strategy and influence can leave a lasting impact beyond the empire's lifespan. Modern billionaires operate in a world dominated by technology, media, and startups. Yet, the Rothschild story provides timeless lessons. Diversification was key. They spread wealth across cities, industries, and currencies. Trust and reputation were assets, as governments relied on them during crises. Strategic foresight allowed them to predict economic trends and act before others. Modern wealth often focuses on visibility and media attention, but the Rothschilds showed that silent influence can be more powerful. They mastered networking, understanding political trends, and timing investments precisely. These lessons remind us that long-term wealth isn't just about accumulation, it's about applying strategy, understanding risk, and creating systems that sustain influence. Observing history allows modern billionaires to learn strategies that can't be taught in schools. Patience, foresight, and coordination are timeless tools of financial success. The Rothschilds' power was built on networks. Each brother controlled a hub in a major European city, creating a communication system that allowed rapid sharing of intelligence. Letters, couriers, and financial reports moved faster than government communications, giving them a unique advantage. Modern billionaires use digital platforms, AI, and social media to maintain influence, but the underlying principle remains: wealth alone is insufficient. Networks amplify the impact of money by connecting knowledge, resources, and opportunities. The Rothschilds understood that influence depended not just on assets but also on relationships with monarchs, politicians, and merchants. They strategically cultivated connections that allowed them to operate above competition. This lesson is still relevant. Real power comes from combining wealth with strong networks that can be leveraged for strategic advantage. Though no longer the dominant banking family, the Rothschilds left a profound legacy. Their techniques in investment banking, credit management, and international finance shaped modern banking systems. Concepts like bonds, diversified portfolios, and cross-border lending were popularized and refined by them. Today's banks, investors, and financial institutions operate on principles influenced by the Rothschilds' innovations. Their story reminds us that wealth without influence may fade, but systems, strategies, and knowledge endure. Modern billionaires can accumulate fortunes, but few can create lasting frameworks that impact entire industries or economies. The Rothschilds' approach combined tangible assets, strategic investments, and political intelligence, a model that illustrates that true financial power is multifaceted. By studying their legacy, anyone can understand the importance of combining innovation with strategy, patience, and influence. The Rothschilds were more than a family, they were architects of modern finance and influence. Their wealth, while immense, was most powerful when paired with intelligence, strategy, and networks. Even they faced decline, proving that money alone cannot buy eternal control. Modern billionaires, despite public fame and visible assets, rarely achieve the geopolitical influence the Rothschilds once held. Their story teaches that wealth is most effective when paired with vision, strategy, and long-term thinking. Influence can outlast money, and smart networks amplify both. By studying history, we learn that accumulation alone is not the key to lasting power. Strategy, foresight, and relationships determine whether wealth can shape nations or fade quietly. The Rothschilds were not just financiers, they were innovators. They pioneered techniques in international finance that are still studied today. Their ability to issue bonds, provide credit, and move gold securely across borders allowed them to operate more efficiently than any contemporary institution. While modern billionaires rely on technology, the Rothschilds relied on intelligence and networks. They created systems that made governments dependent on their services. By blending strategy with innovation, they were able to maximize returns while minimizing risks. Their approach shows that financial innovation is not just about new tools, it's about applying existing resources creatively to create influence. During wars and political turmoil, governments often lacked the funds to sustain armies or manage economies. The Rothschilds provided critical loans at key moments. Their ability to assess risk, calculate returns, and distribute funds efficiently gave them immense leverage. They weren't merely lenders, they were advisors whose decisions could affect entire nations. Modern billionaires rarely influence geopolitics at this scale. The Rothschild strategy demonstrates that wealth, when applied strategically, can create dependency and influence beyond money alone. Their interventions in crises solidified their reputation as indispensable financiers. The Rothschilds understood that money is more than paper, it is trust, gold, and currency flow. They moved bullion across Europe, anticipating fluctuations in value, and profited from exchange rates. By controlling access to liquidity during wars and trade disruptions, they created financial leverage that governments could not ignore. Modern billionaires may dominate tech markets, but few can manipulate essential resources at this level. Their mastery of gold and currency illustrates how understanding fundamental financial instruments can amplify wealth and influence. It is not just accumulation, it is strategic application that matters. Financial power alone is limited without influence. The Rothschilds cultivated relationships with monarchs, ministers, and policymakers, ensuring their advice shaped political decisions. They strategically lent to governments, often attaching conditions or using leverage to guide policies. Modern billionaires may influence legislation indirectly through lobbying or donations, but the Rothschilds operated at the heart of power. They demonstrated that strategic alignment with leadership amplifies wealth, creating long-term leverage. By combining capital and influence, they became key players in European political affairs. The Rothschild dynasty did not rely on one generation. Mayer Amschel Rothschild's sons and grandchildren expanded the empire across Europe, diversifying into banking, investments, and infrastructure. This generational planning ensured that knowledge, networks, and strategy were preserved. Modern billionaires may pass wealth to heirs, but few replicate influence across continents like the Rothschilds. Their long-term vision and disciplined succession planning highlight the importance of family strategy in sustaining wealth and influence. Wealth alone fades, but structured planning allows an empire to endure beyond individual lifetimes. Every fortune faces risk, and the Rothschilds were masters of mitigation. Wars, revolutions, and economic crises created uncertainty, yet they diversified investments across regions, industries, and currencies. This reduced exposure to any single failure. Modern billionaires also diversify, but the Rothschilds' methods were uniquely adaptive, combining foresight, intelligence, and human networks to predict trends before they materialized. They demonstrated that understanding risk and planning for multiple scenarios is essential to maintaining power over generations. Today, billionaires dominate technology, media, and innovation. Their influence is visible but often limited to markets or sectors. The Rothschilds, in contrast, controlled systems that shaped nations. Comparing the two highlights lessons for modern wealth: strategic placement, network building, and discrete influence amplify impact far beyond capital alone. While visibility is important today, influence remains the ultimate measure of power. Learning from the Rothschilds teaches that wealth is a tool, not a guarantee of control. Though wealthy, the Rothschilds operated largely behind the scenes. Public philanthropy was not their focus, influence and strategy came first. Modern billionaires often seek recognition through charitable foundations, media presence, and branding. The Rothschild approach teaches that silent influence, investments, loans, networks, can be more effective than public gestures. Wealth should create systemic impact, not just visibility. This principle shows that strategic discretion can produce lasting results while maintaining privacy and control. The Rothschilds' approach to wealth management was multi-layered: diversification, generational planning, strategic alliances, and timing. They combined visible assets with invisible leverage, creating a system resilient to wars, political changes, and economic crises. Modern billionaires can learn that wealth is temporary without strategic application. Understanding patterns, predicting trends, and cultivating relationships create long-term security. The Rothschilds' method shows that financial systems are as important as capital. The Rothschilds were more than a family, they were architects of modern finance. Their wealth, while enormous, became truly powerful only when combined with strategy, foresight, and influence networks. Even they faced limits, proving that money alone cannot guarantee eternal dominance. Modern billionaires, despite fame and public wealth, rarely achieve the same geopolitical influence. The Rothschilds' legacy teaches that real power comes from combining wealth with intelligence, timing, and relationships. Influence can outlast money, and carefully applied strategy amplifies impact. Wealth is not just numbers, it's strategy, influence, and resilience. The Rothschilds ruled the flow of money, today's billionaires rule innovation. True power belongs to those who master both, understand systems, and plan for the long term. Study history, observe patterns, and let strategy guide wealth into lasting influence.